Odyssey. Odysseus spends a year in Circe's bed. She gives him everything. Pleasure, power, escape. She even offers immortality, but he doesn't stay. He doesn't get angry, he doesn't plead, he doesn't punish, he just leaves. Not because he hates her, but because he's done. That's what this conversation's about. Not love, not hate, but what the silence that comes after, where a man finally stops bleeding for someone who isn't in the room. David knows that place. He wrote the book, It's Okay to Hate Your Ex. But what makes that story powerful isn't the hate, it's what comes after. David, welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. I didn't know I was going to be going to a high school class.
This is a college course, man. This is a divorce is PhD.
Man, the Odyssey. Man, that was a great intro. Awesome.
What was the lowest point in the aftermath of your divorce?
I think the lowest point was that I wasn't in control. After the divorce was over, it went for 18 months. A year and a half, because I have a business, and it took a while to disseminate that. And my anger and my resentment was so large that it's almost, I lost control of my life. And that was eating me up. And like I told you before, I had to work on my anger, went to a divorce recovery workshop with no expectations, and I was able to table that anger and redirect it into things positive, like hiking, biking. But the first part was I had to accept those negative emotions and roll with it. Because if, as men we're taught to, don't cry, don't complain, don't talk about your feelings, things like that. But that was the lowest point, was not being in control of my life.
What did hate give you that nothing else could?
You want to talk about the beginning or the end, or both?
Both, really, because I imagine hate might have been a good fuel as you're going through it.
Yeah. So I think my hate started with when she pulled the trigger. I had the rug pulled underneath me, and that hate just built up. How could she do this? The nerve she does this. She's screwing up the family. So my hate was centered on my selfishness and more so myself. And once I got out of that, I was able to release the hate and turn it into positive. But my hate was huge, man. It was hard to work. It was hard to sleep. I always felt hungry. I had a pit in my stomach. Just the physical manifestations of hate is just brutal. Your mind doesn't shut off, things like that. And the guys out there going through that know that there's a better place once you don't release the hate, you actually just transform it.
Did you ever fear who you were becoming?
Didn't have time to fear it. It was crazy. Fear for me always has a timeline. My divorce, even though it was 18 months, it felt like things were going so fast that, all of a sudden I was sharing the kids 50%. The kids were with me, week on, week off. And I had to be ready for that. I had to hide my hatred when I had the kids because I didn't want to try to flip them and I know she didn't do that. But like I said before, you have to love your kids more than you hate your ex. And not everybody goes through hate. That's not a necessary emotion, but a lot of guys have that. And if you don't know how to flip it or transform it, then I think it just eats you alive. And you become cynical, you become a smartass more so than you are in the first place. Your relationships suffer, your friendships suffer, your job suffers, and it's just a negative place to be.
What were the first signs that hate had overstayed its welcome for you?
Good question. I want to say when I caught myself being short with patience, being short with my staff, being short with my kids, for me, it was more of an attitude. Because I think as men, what we do is sometimes we do like a self-preservation. So we kind of get into a box. And if you touch those sides, sometimes I would lash out. And so lashing out was me being short, me being a smart ass. So that kind of developed. And I used to get that eyebrow look. Yes. It was like, I have to reconfigure this. Yeah. So the eyebrow look from my staff and friends and my kids, I really took account on that.
What did your hate reveal about you?
At first, I thought it was abnormal. But once I talked to other guys in the same predicament, it was pretty normal. It showed me that I was able to either phoenix or morph or recalibrate into a different person, because you don't have to be that same person as you start when you get divorced, or even after you're divorced, after your divorce is over. And the hate is not static, but it's dynamic, and it just gets less and less over time.
You wrote in your book that you said hatred tasted like justice. And what was that? Can you walk me through that? Unpack that for me.
Tasted like just so the justice, it's almost like a rubber bullet. So in your mind, you hate her or him, and it gives you pause, and you get some feeling out of that. It's like, man, I hate her, and that's a good thing. But nothing becomes of it. It's empty calories, big time. So it's a temporary justice, more so. That's what I should have put in the book. It's a temporary justice that you feel, and it's very fleeting. It doesn't last very long.
I guess it's the idea that hatred is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. That's one of the things I talk about. And they don't, you don't die, hopefully, and you don't, and they don't die. But one of the things that I discuss with some people is that you have to imagine that your brain is like a Carvana tower. Tons of cars in the tower. And in the tower, you got good cars. You got Audis, you got Mercedes, you got BMWs, and you got a couple of things. You've got a couple of Fiats, some old Fiats. So you want to populate your brain with positive things and positive cars. And you want to get those other cars out of there because it's just a waste of time. So the hatred is the Fiat and the thing from Volkswagen and things like that you have to transform into a different car.
I like that metaphor. I'm going to transform my mind into a tower of M3s. So what was the shift for you? What was the shift to going from that hot hatred into a place where, I guess it's not forgiveness, right? You said forgiveness doesn't matter.
Dude, man, you messed me up with forgiveness last time. I'm still thinking about that, by the way. I want to say it was when I went to the divorce recovery seminar down at the church downtown. Like I said, I went there with no expectations, and I came out. They gave me tools to flip the script and to move on. But the number one thing that they taught is that you have to accept your emotions and not try to bottle them down. You have to go through the pain. You have to go through the hatred. Whatever emotions that come up, you have to go through it. That was a turning point where I knew that I was going to be okay. But prior to that, man, I was just bouncing off the walls, getting that look.
What does an emotion mean to you?
I want to say, for me, it's how I'm feeling at a desired moment. And so with me, my emotions change. They're either fleeting or they stay around for a long time. The hatred stood around for way too long. And it needs to be more fleeting than people think, because, like you said, it just eats you up inside.
One of the concepts I try to live by is you're the sky, that's your experience, and then clouds pass by. It's a very cloudy day. I can't even see the sky outside. But it's your job to connect with the sky and realize that emotions are clouds that pass by. And some days, like today, it's covered from horizon to horizon, and you can't see that sky, but you gotta work really hard to find the sky there. How did you start to realize that those emotions would pass?
More so when I took my center off the emotion of hate, because that was my center. That was my definite center. That was my sky, basically. And when I moved that to say, hey, I need to recalibrate this. I need to focus on my kids. And once I focused on my kids, I was able to be in a much more positive place. And that was kind of tough too, because I had them a week on, week off. So the week I had them, I was Jack in the Box dad, and then the week they're gone, put me back in the Jack in the Box and hang out. So the week they were gone, I had to intentionally work on myself as if they were still there.
I found the weeks off when I didn't have my kids. That was the hardest time.
Yeah.
Quiet.
Big time.
It was too quiet.
Yeah.
But
then it got to the point where like you were a single parent week on, week off. And man, I felt so bad because some of those weeks I couldn't wait for them to leave. Daddy loves you, but get the hell out.
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Oh,
You
yeah.
love them, but
Yeah,
holy shit.
everybody said that that happens, but I felt so bad even thinking that. But you're on. And I have three kids, and they were at the time 16, 15, and 13. And it was on.
I think that was like me when mine were 8 and 10-ish, that era. And they just wanted to be literally on top of me all the time. I mean, it was wonderful, but at the same time, I needed space.
Paradox. Oh, yeah. That'd be a good book. The Paradox of Co-Parenting. There we go.
Interesting.
Yep.
You're full of ideas. I'm going to write that down. What's the difference between letting go of hate and avoiding it?
I would say letting go of it is more like a conquering or get to the point where you realize that is not a good thing. And God, what's the question again? Conquering and
letting go of hate and avoiding it.
Avoiding. Okay, avoidance is more like you're playing tag and you're behind the tree and you're avoiding being caught, but eventually they're going to get caught. So eventually the hate's going to come back. It just rebounds back maybe into something else, but it eventually comes back because you haven't done the steps to move on or try to flip it. So yeah, avoiding it is nice at first, but it's only a temporary solution.
Was there a point you recognized where her name stopped like getting you inside?
That's
or like seeing a text on your phone from her?
It took a while. I think I told you last time about the story where I was in on the border and I was with my divorced friends because that's what you hang out with when you're divorced. And I was probably 2.5 years divorced, and it just came to me. That F word, the forgiveness. So I texted her and I said, I forgive you. No need for a text back. And man, she blew my phone up for about 2 weeks. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Let it go, babe. Let it go. So at that moment, when I let that go, that was the moment for me. That was the switch.
What does forgiveness mean to you now? I know you said our conversation last time threw you off. What does it mean to you today?
The same. I would say forgiveness is when you get to that point where the name, the text, the mention, even, of her name or his name or whatever, that it doesn't, make your heart skip, and not in a good way, or you don't have like negative thoughts. That's the point, I think, for me, that the forgiveness really is there. That you don't, all the cars in your Carvana tower are like nice cars.
A nice ruby red M3.
There you go. Or maybe a nice blue A7. There you go. Hatchback, baby. Hook it up.
To me, what you're describing is indifference, not forgiveness. The opposite of love isn't hate. There's still an emotional charge. Mm-hmm. To me, the opposite of love is that indifference, not feeling anything towards them. What did indifference cost you?
As in terms of?
Well, relationships, getting to that point.
I think indifference kind of hurt me, especially in my relationships after that. Because it was a big, it's kind of like Dave Chappelle, where you got to get the chicken, get the steak. I've got indifference on my shoulder, and I'm dating, and it's like the Sahara Desert. I'm just having fun, and I'm not worried about your emotions. But when I was dating, I was really, really thorough. Say, hey, this is the deal. This is who I am. If you can go with this, let's go with it. This is all I have to offer. So that indifference kind of fueled that type of dating. And eventually I had to open up my heart because when you have indifference, your heart is closed. Your heart is shut closed. So eventually went from there. So yeah, so indifference and a closed heart, same thing. You like that, don't you? I
do like that. You made me drop my pen. I like that so much. To me, you still have to compartmentalize indifference, and I've compartmentalized indifference towards my ex. I've had to. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It is, I think what I really liked about that is that you can come from that place of indifference and then it permeates every part of life. And then how do you ever have a relationship again?
Definitely. Yeah. It took me a while to get indifference off my shoulder. But once again, that indifference provides men with um, a survival tactic. It's huge. It's easy. It's available, and we're pretty damn good at it.
I call it building, like you're setting boundaries, you're building the walls, and you're deciding who you're allowing in and out. But that takes some time to figure out. What was it that opened your heart again? I know you told me a story last time.
I think it was time hanging out with my friends, getting to know other people, not being such a hard ass. With me, it was more time. It wasn't one thing that happened or thing like that. I think over time my heart kind of softened because I said I would never get married again. And that's what every guy says. I'm never getting married again. I'm never doing that shit again. No way I'm going to do that. And here I am, married a year and a half. Hello.
What led to that?
He's dancing.
He's dancing.
He's dancing.
I feel like there's a story there.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of Earth, Wind, and Fire, a little bit of Chicago, with the horns. Someone thought I didn't dance. I said, if we dance, this is the thing. And she didn't believe me. And we were married 4 years later. So it's all about the hips. It's kind of like Shakira. It's all about the hips.
Your hips don't. David
don't
Webb's hips don't lie.
No, heck no.
What you offer men practical ways to channel rage. What ones worked the best for you?
For me, I'm a big bike rider, mountain and road. So I killed a couple of bike tires. I did that. Colorado has a lot of hiking trails. I did a lot of hiking trails. There were a lot of meetups. Groups get together and do hikes. I leaned into my friends. I got a new group of friends because when you do like a divorce recovery seminar and you become a facilitator, those co-facilitators become your friends. So that's a whole new group, and that group knows exactly what you went through or you're going through. So that kind of helped. I leaned to my kids. That was a big one. I am charged to raise these knuckleheads and get them into life. So that's a hard charge. So you have to take it seriously.
What wisdom are you bringing them now?
Well, mine were in high school, so I was busy with them. They did sports. And in high school, you have to be cognizant and proud because you get to see them screw up and you can still guide them to a place of safety. So it's almost to the point where you want them to screw up so they'll have those tools in order to get this safety. But when they get older, mine are 32, 31, and 29. And it's interesting, one of the most interesting things for me is going out with my kids and having a beer. Something simple. I still can't get over that. That still drives me a little crazy because they're old now and they do ask me things every now and then. But when they're in high school and if you see the trains going off the track, you can always grab them and say, hey, this is what we need to do. But when they're older, you have to help clean the wreckage. And hopefully there's not too much wreckage because you've done a good job when they were in high school. So it's a give and go there.
Are you finding that they're making the same mistakes you did?
I don't think so. They're all successful out of the house, off the payroll. So that's a gauge of completeness, getting off the payroll. They do pretty good. I don't see any problems anytime soon. No one has any kids yet, so I'm looking forward to being a grandfather so I can spoil them and watch them suffer.
Buy them a drum kit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they call that payback. Yeah, being a grandparent is payback. So all my friends have kids, and my kids are taking their time, and I know you can't push them. So, but yeah, give me some things, guys. Let's go. Hook me up. I'm ready.
You're ready.
I am ready.
For men who are listening, who are still in that boiling phase, what's one truth they need to face today?
The men out there that are suffering. And I know you've heard this before, it does get better. You're in the storm, you can't see outside the storm. There's a part where the guys have to pay their dues, but it does get better over time. Talking to people like Jeff or just look at stuff on YouTube. Just something. Just make the effort to do something and not just sit there. Talk to somebody. I'm all about the third person. The third person or second person can always help you because they have a different perspective than you have because your perspective is screwed right now. big time. You don't see shit. So you need that third person. So there's a lot of third person people out there. A lot. Seek help one way or the other.
And that third person is a mirror for you. They show you where you're screwing up.
Yep. Or you need help. You're not screwing up. You just need help.
I regretted that as soon as I said it, but yeah, you're
deficient.
Yeah. My last question and I always try to wrap up with this. What one thing are you grateful for having gone through all the challenges of your divorce and everything over the last few years?
What am I grateful for? My gratitude. I am grateful. This is going to be interesting. I am grateful I'm able to do this, to talk to other people, to be able to provide other people YouTube videos, to do podcasts, because I think if I didn't do this, maybe one or two people would not be able to listen or figure out something. So my thing is, if I reach one person, then it's worth it. You know, I haven't monetized yet, but I still have a great time. I've been podcasting since 2016, so I'm an old guy, and I've seen the technology change. God, 100%. It's easier, not easy, but I am grateful that the technology allows me to reach out to guys like you and other people, and I've met so many. You know, with my 101 podcasts and Don't Pick the Sky podcast, I've met some great people. And like I think I told you, I've only had one dud, and I was so pissed I went ahead and published it. I was so pissed. But yeah, so 99 people have been awesome, and you just meet some of the best people. So if I never got divorced, I would never be at this point in my life.
Love it. Most men think the opposite of love is hate, but it's not. Hate still costs you something. It still ties you to her. Still makes her the reference point, but indifference, that's where the cord snaps. And when you stop needing her to know anything, and when the story no longer starts with her name, that's not healing, it's freedom. I've been speaking with David about hate and what it takes to move forward.
I appreciate your time, man. This has been fun. It's nice to be on the other side of the camera. This is great.
And you're a wonderful guest. Thank you.